So Granblue might be becoming my new obsession, as we discovered in my last video of playing the demo, and I've been diving into all of the different aspects of the Granblue fantasy world. So Granblue Fantasy versus Rising, Relink, even the gacha game I've done some research into, and through that research I found some really interesting stuff that actually ties Granblue in with Final Fantasy in ways that I wasn't expecting, so I thought I'd make a video and show you guys what I found. So first things first, I want you to take a look at this. Now this is the actual Granblue Fantasy website from Cygames, and there's a very familiar face. In fact, there's two, but I'm going to come to the second one later. Right there in the center of the screen, and that's because the sound director for a lot of the music in Granblue Fantasy, the gacha version, is Nobuo Uematsu, who is an extraordinarily prolific video game composer who has worked on countless titles, but most famously worked on all of the golden age of Final Fantasy. So here he says that he wanted to create a Celtic flair, which is something that works naturally for him, and you can see that across all of the influences in music that he's done before. And if you listen to some of the music that he's done, one of which I'll play for you right now from the Grand Order, which is from the mobile game, you can absolutely see where those influences come in. As a matter of fact, if you actually look there, Nobuo Uematsu is even summonable, or has been, within the mobile game as Nobuo, who is a character that makes Nobuo Uematsu a playable character in a video game. How crazy is that? The majority of the music that Uematsu made was for Granblue Fantasy as the gacha title, and the Relink music, apart from arrangements, isn't made by Uematsu. Instead, they are composed by Suomu Narita, who was like a protege that worked with Uematsu, and as you can see from this article here from God is a Geek from September of last year, and also this interview here from Grand Cypher, you can see where a lot of the influences come from Uematsu, even in these final products. And Narita actually worked on Final Fantasy 15 Comrades as well as Xenoblade Chronicles. So honestly, there's some real talent that's gone into the music for this game. So the next thing I want to talk about is slightly more speculative, but also not really, when it comes to the design of certain monsters within Granblue. So if you take a look at Bahamut, if you've seen Grand Super's Skybound art in Granblue Fantasy versus Rising, or you've seen Bahamut in the trailers for Granblue Fantasy Relink, he looks awfully familiar. Now, Bahamut didn't necessarily originate in Final Fantasy. Bahamut as a name for a dragon actually originates in Dungeons and Dragons, but that synonymity definitely comes from Final Fantasy, and Bahamut as we know him to look in Granblue definitely evokes that same image that Final Fantasy once had. And Bahamut's not the only one that does it. Now again, you could argue that I'm being speculative here, but doesn't this Leviathan look suspiciously like the Leviathan you would find in Final Fantasy, particularly 8 or 15? I'm saying that the art direction for a lot of these monsters definitely has a lot of Square Enix RPGs, particularly Final Fantasy, in mind when these monsters are designed. And even going into something like a Dramalek, which is a monster that's only really in Final Fantasy Tactics and 12, even that looks fairly similar. But when you look at who the art director for this game is, it's actually not that surprising. So we all know that Granblue Fantasy is gorgeous. You know, Relink is stunning, versus Rising is stunning, and we have this man to thank for it, Hideo Minaba. Now, this is not the first name that a lot of people think of when they think of Final Fantasy art directors. The first kind of names that you think of when it comes to art, when it comes to Final Fantasy are, you know, Tetsuya Nomura or Yoshitaka Amano. But Hideo Minaba has a lot of credits for the things that he's done in the Final Fantasy kind of pantheon. So if we take a look here at the works that he's done, this is taken from the Final Fantasy Wiki, you can see that he's been working on Final Fantasy since Final Fantasy IV, and he's been the art director for Final Fantasy XII, Final Fantasy IX, Final Fantasy VI he was a graphic director for, the art director, background art design, Final Fantasy Tactics. He designed the cool Trino nobleman outfit for Kuja in Final Fantasy Dissidia Duodecim. That's also a win for me. And even outside of Final Fantasy, he's got a lot of very prolific kind of credits to his name. Granblue Fantasy Versus, that makes sense, and he is the art director for Relink and for Versus Rising as well. Xenoblade Chronicles 2, he designed some of the blades. Tokyo Mirage Sessions, #FE, which is Mirages. You know, if you've played that game, you'll know that that's a big deal. Basically, you've got one of the strongest art directors Final Fantasy's ever had, combined with the most prolific composer, or one of the most prolific composers in JRPG history, who have worked on these games. So to be honest with you, when you've got somebody like Minaba who has worked on such prolific Final Fantasy titles, working on such beautiful character art, and it did make me think, oh, that makes sense as to why I really love this character art in Granblue, and you pair that up with Arc System Works and their extremely distinctive visual style in fighting games like Guilty Gear for Granblue Fantasy Versus Rising, it's no wonder that it looks the way that it does. And then if you dive even further back into Psy games, in 2012 they made an offshoot called Psy Designation, which was designed for game planning, art, that kind of direction. And that was helmed by Akihiko Yoshida, who is another of Square Enix and Final Fantasy's most prolific artists. So it's wild to me that it's all kind of come to me all at once, that I'm discovering all this amazing stuff about this world of Granblue. Let's also not forget that there actually is a more direct link between Square Enix and Psy games coming up for Granblue, in that 2B is coming out in Granblue Fantasy Versus Rising, which is a wild kind of collaboration for them to have, although 2B does seem to be everywhere these days. So who knows, maybe something like that will happen for Relink as well. So yeah, that's kind of everything that I've found so far. I just wanted to make a video and kind of share with you these discoveries that I've made when looking into Granblue for like an everything we know about Granblue video coming out very, very soon. And I just thought that it blew my mind. So I thought I'd let you guys know about it too. Are there any other ties to like cool franchises like Final Fantasy that perhaps I haven't seen yet? Let me know down in the comments below. And of course, if you enjoy the content that you're seeing, please do give us a subscribe. I'm really working my way towards 20,000 subscribers now, and I've been stuck for ages, so I'm really happy to see that things are trending up again. I'm really pleased with that, so thank you very much for enjoying the content. And you can like the video, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell for notifications, and obviously comments and everything. I do read a lot more of my comments now than I used to, and I'm very grateful for anyone who interacts and wants to talk to me. You can also come and find me on Twitch, Discord, wherever you want to find me. I've actually been doing TikTok lately, and it's scary, but it's actually going quite well, so you can find me on TikTok as well. And if you want to support the channel further, perhaps you'd like to consider subscribing to my Patreon, where I do artwork, and I may well have to draw some Granblue characters and make some title cards out of that for you guys, because that would be really fun, and there's all sorts of other benefits on there as well. So if you'd like to consider that, perhaps click on the link in the description box for that too. Anyways, thanks very much guys. Let me know what kinds of Granblue content you want to see going forward, and hopefully I can make it for you before the release of Relink on February 1st. So thanks again, and I'll see you later. Bye bye.